onto Cactus Valley in the lower right hand corner. Our red Terran player from Dignitas, Dead Pixels, ladies and gentlemen. It's FanTaSy. And up to the upper right hand corner from Nuit Blanche, representing Team Baguette here in the SC2ITL Season 4, the French All-Stars. They created this alliance to compete. They said they have the potential to win it all back at the start of the season, and so far they have shown us nothing but the truth in that statement. In the upper right hand corner, it's PtitDrogo. They finished second in their group behind Axiom Mesa. They had one hell of a group stage. They performed extremely well in it. They lost to, I believe, they lost to Axiom Mesa. They lost to My Insanity as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they beat My Insanity. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But in general, they just performed outstandingly in the group stages. 7 wins, 2 losses. You know, one of the only teams to actually outperform them in the group stages would have been Dignitas Dead Pixels, who were in the other group. And Dignitas Dead Pixels went the entire season just looking nigh on unstoppable. They lost 1 match to Carnage Esports, 3 games to 4, but they stomped through teams such as Team Liquid in their group, 4-0. They had a fantastic season. You know, nothing so far has really gotten in the way of Dignitas Dead Pixels. Both teams 4-0'd in the quarterfinals. Baguette with the 4-0 over 80 Gaming from Marine Lord, and FanTaSy 4-0'd Team Red Bloods in the round of 8 for Digpix. So let's see how this game is going to get started. It's going to be a Ripper expand coming out of FanTaSy. Nothing really surprising here. I mean, Cactus Valley, a very large map. Probably just expecting both players to expand fairly early on. We do see a second gas coming up quite quickly for PtitDrogo, but I would be surprised if this didn't lead into an expansion nice and quickly. This SCV going to spot where his opponent is nice and early on here, and will actually turn around and might go for a bit of an not necessarily an engineering block straight away here, but will just block for a little while, at least try and force that Zeld to finish. As the Reaper comes out for FanTaSy, he's going to be able to bring this straight up to the upper right hand corner. Second probe pulled down here, going to make sure to get rid of this SCV as soon as possible, and he might even get the kill on that. It's very close, in fact it's run into the corner, and it will go down. As another probe coming down here, PtitDrogo probes all over the shop right now as FanTaSy does get this Reaper across the map, and he will start to poke in towards the little base a little bit. Not too much to see just yet. Mothership core on the way up, so he has a little bit of time here to try and get a little bit of damage done, but has to be careful. I mean, he does have that, there is that wall set up here, so he's not able to kind of loop around, and can't really afford to go into the mineral line, and ooh, lots of bit of damage getting done there. Mothership core getting a few shots off, and FanTaSy, does he see that upper left pylon? No, not quite, so doesn't see that, and that looks as though it's somewhere which PtitDrogo may use to try and hide some tech in a little while here. For now, FanTaSy back at home, he is just expanding and putting down his factory as well. Stargate is going to be popped up in that upper left corner, so really just getting set up here for kind of the next stage of his game, which is going to be that opening tech, and FanTaSy going to spot the Stargate, which isn't detrimental to PtitDrogo. I mean, it would have been nice to have FanTaSy in the dark a little bit, but at the same time, an Oracle's always going to be useful. It's always going to find a way to do a little bit of damage at least. Back at home, FanTaSy's factory finishing up here, so we'll see that starport starting up soon. A couple of mines will be on the way out, unless he wants to maybe swap this onto the reactor, which it looks as though he might. No, okay, he's just waiting for the money to start up that first Widow mine there. So starts up his first mine, starport on the way down. No real surprises so far from FanTaSy. Very standard TVP opening from him. We'll be looking to put on the aggression here in the near future. And again, I mean, the general game plan for FanTaSy is kind of predictable at this point. You know, he's just going to put on some pressure and then continue to put on pressure with some drops and keep the Protoss busy while just building up into his own kind of infrastructure, while building up in towards his mid game, and then continuing with the drops once he gets that stim, once he gets that combat shields and the medevacs out onto the map alongside that bio. So that's the kind of game plan here for FanTaSy, and I mean, we're probably not going to see anything too crazy from PtitDrogo. We see this first Oracle coming out. He has a Robo Facility on the way. The only thing we could perhaps see, which would be quite interesting, is maybe a Phoenix on the way out, and seeing some form of Phoenix Colossus play. But for now, I don't really feel that really is going to be what he's doing. If he looks as though it's just going to be nice and standard. Robo's on the way up, and get a couple of observers out with this to help him deflect this incoming Widow Mine drop play. As this Oracle on the way in towards the main base. Only 4 Marines here right now, and that's not quite enough to take on this Oracle. Here come the rest of them. Whoa, even I didn't see that mine hidden behind the factory there. And that mine does pick up the kill on the Oracle. So PtitDrogo losing that first Oracle, and that's really scary because that means there's so much possibility for FanTaSy now. He has so much freedom to move out onto the map, and there's nothing to stop him coming back home. He hasn't even invested into missile turrets yet, so he really is getting away with playing a very green, you know, he's getting away with pretty much everything right now, and there's nothing really that PtitDrogo can do to stop him. FanTaSy's not really pushing out just yet, though. He is going to pick up his Widow Mines here, and he will be moving across the map with 4 of them, so you will look to put on this first little bit of aggression. Now, there is Phoenix being added on here, and we'll see how much he wants to commit into these. I mean, for now, it's just been 2, which can be very useful to slow down this form of early pressure. But at the same time, we'll see if he wants to commit even further, and if he does, that would be that sort of Phoenix Colossi player on the way up. First lift will be used here to deny this Reaper from moving any further forward. Throw an overcharge popped down here on the natural, as all of these Widow Mines do begin to go off, and how many worker kills are we going to see going down? Only 5 workers, so not too bad. The Observer is out, and we'll see these Widow Mines cleaned up here in a few moments' time. So 4 Widow Mines for 5 workers. Not the best of trades, but again, it keeps the pros player busy. It slows him down a little bit, while back at home, FanTaSy, upgrades on the way, infrastructure being set up. And he's continuing to produce mines here, so second Widow Mine drop going to be coming in the fairly near future. And of course, it only takes one slight lapse in concentration for our Terran player to get one good mine shot off, and the pros to really be feeling the hurt in terms of the worker count. So, medevac moving across the map here, and we have, again, these couple of Phoenix. We actually see another one being added on here, so going up to 3, as we see the Robo Bay, the Twilight Council, and 2 Forges coming down. So, PtitDrogo is starting to go into absolutely everything here in this game, just getting pretty much set up to say, I'm going to sit back on 2 bases for quite some time, really tech up, really push out my upgrades, and then see what I can get done. This Phoenix spots the medevac on its way in, and you know, this is something which PtitDrogo can see, and he's going to drop that phone overcharge very quickly here. Looks as though this medevac will go down. 1 lift on one of the mines here, but oh, the probes are a little bit stuck, and a lot of damage being done. 9 workers killed, 10 workers killed. Again, it costs him another 4 Widow Mines, but again, it slows down the pros player so much. 42 probes to 48 SCVs, and double orbital, of course, on the map means that FanTaSy is in a fantastic position in terms of his income here early in this game. So throws his third base down right now as well, and you know, he's set up onto 5 racks. He's just going to, you know, pressure from this point. First couple of medevacs on the way across with some units, and these Phoenix need to be very, very careful, and he really needs kind of anything and everything he can get. I'm a little bit worried for PtitDrogo, because I mean, his first Colossus is about to come out, but he doesn't have all of his upgrades are so far away, so he's opening some Zealots right now to try and help out. We see FanTaSy simming forwards. He's going to see if he can get something done. +1's about to finish for him. There's that Colossus coming down the ramp, though, and that's going to be all he needs to really push this back. A couple of Zealots at the front may get taken down, but again, the Colossus is going to be enough to keep pushing this back. The Phoenix lift's actually been very useful as well, just helping to take down a couple of these Marines. At the same time, we do have a drop in towards the main base, and FanTaSy is once again going with these Widow Mines. He is not letting up with these, as at least another few workers are going to go down right now. And again, just trying to drop off wherever he can with these Widow Mines, just get whatever damage done possible, as Phoenix come in and they're not quite going to get there in time, and he's actually going to lose one of those, a few workers and one of those Phoenix to the Widow Mines here. Another 6 workers killed then, and FanTaSy just keeping up the pressure, and he is opening up such a huge supply lead at this point of the game. Almost 30 supply up right now as he moves across the map with a couple of these medevacs, and again, just going to keep on, you know, pressing forwards here. This is what you want to do as a Terran player. Get your third base up, set up your economy, get ahead in that regard, while really abusing the mobility advantage you have early on in this game. You know, he was attacking at the front, and where else was he attacking? Right in the back, right in the main base, distracting his opponent in one place and saying, hey, can you keep up with my multitasking? Right now, PtitDrogo sits on this third base. We see a bunch of units coming across the map here from FanTaSy. Again, just continuing to rally forward with this. Some more Widow Mines being added in. No drops out on the map just now. Everything is just sat at the front here as an observer moving forwards. FanTaSy not going to spot that, not going to pick it up. Another medevac loaded up in the main base. And, well, FanTaSy's in a pretty nice concave on top of this ramp, and that's a little bit problematic if PtitDrogo wants to try and attack into it. And if he doesn't attack into it, FanTaSy's just going to move in towards his opponent's natural. He's going to be able to maybe take down this Nexus. It's going to be kind of close, though. 3 Colossi are going to be firing on this army. He's going to get the Nexus, but it's going to cost him a lot of his army. And has it been worthwhile? He's going to run away into the main base. He can just pick up and leave here at some point. He's only being chased by a Phoenix. I guess Blink is up, though, so maybe Blink forwards from PtitDrogo, as at the same time we actually see a cancel at the third base. FanTaSy with more units coming in, and all of a sudden PtitDrogo knocked down to a single base. I didn't like this so much when he'd only picked off the natural, but picking off the third base as well is huge, as he picks off that Colossus just at the edge of his range with those Marauders, and PtitDrogo is struggling to kind of settle down here in this game. He's struggling to stabilize a little, and I mean, we see a couple of medevacs heading towards the natural right now. FanTaSy going to drop in towards the main base. It's actually PtitDrogo who's moving through the middle of the map, who's just looking to kind of say, right, I'm going all in from this point. It's now or never, basically, and he's just going to see what he can do. But FanTaSy is going to be killing his opponent left, right, and center. Let's drop in towards the natural. Can FanTaSy hold on at home? Well, he's got his units right in towards his main base. All he has to do is buy some time, wait in his main a little while, and he'll probably be more or less alright. I mean, his opponent has a lot of damage to do to kind of even up the damage which FanTaSy has already done. I mean, even if he loses all of these workers, it's going to not be enough to even things up. So FanTaSy's still looking okay here. Back in the main base, he's going to pick off this Colossus. Another Colossus comes out, and, well, the main base army is cleaned up. The natural is slowly but surely falling, as this army in the main base is starting to move up this ramp. And again, FanTaSy doesn't have much right now, but again, it's going to take this army so long to shut down his production. There isn't very much here. There isn't a lot of DPS, and we've got Widow Mines just slowly picking away at things. There's no Observer here. The Marine pops out, and there's just nothing to really tank as these units stim in. SCVs will be pulled as well. The force fields, they're the best they can be, but it's not going to be enough, and FanTaSy is able to take game number 1 here for Dignitas.